For the last few days, we've been doing the corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. So I would give you a statement like this, and you would mark all of the corresponding and therefore congruent sides and angles of the triangle. Now, I'm going to throw some algebra in there, and you're going to have to solve for a variable. And you might end up plugging it back in. So, very first thing you're going to do, whatever you're given, I'm going to mark in green. I'm told that U, V, W, so U is the first, V is the second angle, and W is the third angle, is congruent to T, S, R. So T is the first, so it's congruent to U. S is the second, and therefore is congruent to V. And R is my third angle, and therefore congruent to W. Okay? That's really important because all the measurements I gave you are sides. The only way to figure out what sides are congruent is to know what angles are congruent. I marked the angles according to what I was given, just because that's easier for me to organize. You can pick any side that you want to now. So, would you like me to start with VU, VW, UW, SR, RT, or TS? Which one? VW? All right, VW. Now, you picked VW, so I have to pick the side that matches. VW is the 2 and then the 3 mark. So go over here. 2 to 3 is right there. Those two are equal to each other. All right, pick me another side that I haven't used already. Other side. Okay, I'm going to pick this one. UW. U is the one angle, W is the 3. 1 to 3 means 3z plus 14 is now equal to 50. And then I have TS, which is from 1 to 2. From 1 to 2 means these two sides are now equal to each other. So I'm going to give you just a second to get your triangle marked just like that. All right, so since marking angles and sides are the very first things I should do, I want you to make yourself a note. Okay, first thing you need to do is mark congruent angles. Okay, then mark congruent sides. Okay, so the very first thing I want you to do when you get two triangles is I want you to mark the congruent angles and then go back and mark your congruent sides. All right, now look at what you were told to do. I told you to find X, Y, and Z. Okay, I've got a lot of information. These triangles, I'm going to give you a lot of information. You may use, you may not. Let's start out by doing the first thing they said, which is find X. Find any X you've got. That's the only X you've got. 12x minus 3 has 3 lines. If this one has 3 lines, what's that mean about those? They equal. So 12x minus 7 equals 53. If you didn't mark it, it would be harder to see. So now, solve for x. You're going to add 7 to both sides. 12x equals 60. How do you undo times 12? You divide by 12. So what does your x equal? What's 60 divided by 12? 5? My friend tells me 5. So I found x. Now, if I plug x back in, what had it better equal? 53. And it does, okay? So I found x. What if the problem told you to find y? You're going to look at your figure and you're going to find any y that you've got. Well, that's the only y I've got. What do I know about 5y minus 33, which has 1 mark? It equals 57. So 5y minus 33 with 1 mark equals 57 because it's got 1 mark. And if I want to know y, I'm going to get it by itself. I'm going to add 33 to both sides. Inverses cancel. I've got 5y equals, what is 57 plus 33? 90. How do I undo times 5? Divide by 5. Now help me out. What's 90 divided by 5? 18, my friends tell me. So y equals 18. So if I plug in 15 I'm sorry, 5 times 18 minus 33, I get 57. All right? All right, so I was zoomed in a little bit. Let me zoom back out. The last thing that says is that you need to find z. Look at your triangles. Find every z you've got. That's the only z I've got. So 3z plus 14 has got 2 marks. What is that the same as? It's the same as 2 marks with 50. So I'm going to minus 14 from both sides. 3z equals, that's a 4, 36. And when I divide by 3, my z equals 12. Now, I don't always have to find all of the variables. I just had to find all of the variables here because that's what it told me to do. I found x, y, and z because that's what I was told to do. Okay, so let's look at example 2 here. Example 2 says, given these two triangles, find the values of x, y, and z. Okay, I know I've got to find x, y, and z. So I'm looking for 3 answers. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to mark what you're given. So I'm going to use my green pen and P, H, S. So P, H, S is congruent to C, N, F. So C is 1, N is 2, F is 1, 2, 3. So I mark my angles based on my statement. Now I'm going to mark my sides. I just pick any side to start with. So I'm going to start with this one. This side is between the 1 and the 3. So the 1 and the 3 mark, which is P, S, and C, F, they are congruent. So they're the same thing. I'm going to pick this side. That's between the 2 and the 3. The 2 and the 3, those are congruent. And then the third side, obviously, between 1 and the 2, 1 and the 2 is congruent to the third side. So the first thing I did was I marked all of my corresponding parts of these congruent triangles because they are congruent. That's where you get and use CPCTC. All right, so I want to find x. I want to find x because that's what they told me. So if I'm going to find x, I've got to look for any x expression that I have. Here is x. X is h. What is h congruent to? N. So if h is 6x minus 29 equals n, which is 115. Okay, I'm going to set up all 3 of my equations and I'm going to give you a chance to solve. So if I need to find y, here's y. Y is f. What is f with 3 marks congruent to? S. Well, at first I panic because I don't know what S is. I know this is 115, so I know this is 115. How am I going to find S? 180 minus 115 minus 36, which my calculator told me this was 29. So F equals S, which we just determined was 29. And then here's my only Z. 4Z minus 32 equals C. C is congruent to P, and what is the value of P? 36. So what I want you to do is, now that we have our equation set up, I want you to solve for x, y, and z. And then I'll put what the answer should be up there. So when you get finished solving, I want you to check. I did put the correct answer up there, but of course I'll go over the solving if I need to. But there are the correct answers. All right, so let's look at our answers, okay? So when we solve for x, you're looking right here, and that's all you're doing. X, when you solve, is 24, y is 10, and z ends up to be 7. All right, so I'm pretty sure that solving is not necessarily the issue as long as you get these set up right, because you could have decimals. But I'm telling you now, I fixed all of these problems where they should get whole numbers. If you get a decimal, something's wrong, okay? All right, so let's look at this next example. So in triangle DEF, if it is congruent to triangle JKL, and it tells you all this other information, but I look at that and I think, oh my gosh, where are my triangles? I'm just telling you information. the best thing that you can do is draw you a triangle. Okay, so I'm going to take my green pen. Now, I'm going to draw two triangles. They may or may not be the right shape and or size. It doesn't really matter. I'm drawing the triangles to organize my information. So I'll be honest with y'all. Every time I draw a triangle, I pretty much draw like two equilateral-ish looking triangles, these two. Here's what matters. If I call this D, E, F, I've got to make sure I name it the same, J, K, L. So, D is equal to, I don't know why I put 2 there, J, E is equal to K, and F is equal to L. All right? That means these two sides are congruent, these are congruent, and these are congruent. Now I need you to fill in all that information. So, I'm going to use a little bit darker pen, so I think that one's run out of ink. From D to E, segment DE is 18. Segment EF, E to F is 23. Segment DF is 9x minus 23. And JL is 7x minus 11. JK is 3y minus 21. I need you to find X and Y. So I'm looking for two answers here. Now, it really doesn't matter if you find X or Y first, you find them separately. But because they told me to find X, I'm going to find X first. Okay? Look at your expressions. Look at every part of both triangles. How many expressions do you see with an X in them? 2. What can you tell me about segment DF and JL? They're equal. So, 9x minus 23 is equal in length to 7x minus 11. So I need to set those equal and solve. So I'm going to minus 7x from both sides. I'm going to add 23 to both sides because inverses cancel. So 9 minus 7 is 2x. Negative 23, positive 23 cancel. 7 minus 7 goes away. And negative 11 plus 23 gives me a total of 12. So that when I divide by 2, what is your x value? 6. Now, 6 is the value of x. What would you do if I asked you to find the measure of JL? Plug it in. So it's 7 times x minus 11. So 7 times 6 minus 11. If I asked you that, you would tell me it was 31. Now, technically, I didn't ask you that. I'm going to ask you something like that in a little bit. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to set up and find me what y equals. I'm going to tell you that you should get y equal to 13. You're going to set it up and you're going to solve it. If you don't get 13, one of us is wrong. And I don't think it's me, but I couldn't swear it's me, not me. So you find y. All right, so here's my only y. 3y minus 21 is the side JK. This side is congruent to DE, which is 18. That means they are equal. So I'm going to add 21 to both sides. So I get 3y equals 39. And when I divide by 3, that's how I got y equals 13. All right, so let's look at number 4. Number 4 says if triangle QRS is congruent to triangle MNP, and QR is this, and QS, and MP, and angle S, and angle R, and angle M, find the values of X and Y. Now, I gave you a lot of words and a lot of numbers, and most of it just jumbled up in your brain, and you're thinking, I have no idea what you said. That's fine. Make a picture. You have two triangles. You just draw two triangles. If they don't end up being the right shape or size, it doesn't matter. So I'm going to draw two triangles. And I'm not going to draw two tiny triangles. I'm going to draw two triangles that I can actually write in. And I'm going to name these QRS. S. Now you say, Miss Lusher, what if I went around a different way? That's fine. Wherever your Q is, it has to be equal to your M. Wherever you put R, it has to be congruent to N. And wherever you write S, that's congruent to P, so you got to write it there. Now, the thing I like about drawing these triangles in the exact same way, it's easy to see that this side equals this side equals this one, and the two sides on the bottom are equal to each other. That is simply a picture of triangle QRS is congruent to triangle MNP. Now you're going to take every piece of information and you're going to write it down, and don't leave anything out. Segment QR is 11. QR, that's 11. QS is 15. QS is 15. MP is 2x plus 1. Angle S is 84 degrees. Angle R is 32 degrees. And angle M is 17y minus 4. Now let me fix my 17. It looks a little too close together. I have marked everything I was given. All right, so my instructions say find x. So let me find every x that I have. This is the only x I have. So 2x plus 1 is on the side MP. MP is congruent to QS, and what do you know about QS? It equals 15. So if QS equals 15, that means MP equals 15. So I set those equal, and now we're going to solve. I'm going to minus 1 from both sides, so 2x equals 14, so that when I divide by 2, my x equals 7. If I plug 7 back in, 2 times 7 is 14 plus 1 equals 15 because it has to be the same. All right, now I want to find my y. Y is M, okay? 17y minus 4, M equals Q. But you have a tiny problem right now. What is your tiny problem? You don't know Q. So 17x minus 4 equals I don't know what. Can you find Q for me? How would you find Q? No, this is going to be on the outside. Q's inside. There you go. So 180 minus the 84 of the angle minus the 32 should give us a total of 64 degrees. So if Q is 64, M is 64, and 64 equals 17x minus 4. So now I'm going to add 4 to both sides. 17y equals 68, and when I divide by 17, y equals 4. All right, so our next example tells you, given that triangle YAK is congruent to triangle EHB. Now, I drew some triangles for you, and I want you to mark the congruent sides and angles right now before we even read the rest of the problem. YAK. YAK. You got to be focused right here. You can't afford to be focused anywhere else. It's congruent to EHB. EHB. Now I'm going to mark my sides. I start with any side I want to. I think I'll start with this side. AY is from 2 to 1. 2 to 1 is HE. They are the same. YK is 1 to 3. 1 to 3 is congruent. And then HB is from 2 to the 3. From the 2 to the 3 is the third congruent side. Right now, you could tell me every part of this triangle, every angle and every side that would be congruent. That is the first thing I want you to do every time. Draw your triangles. If they're not drawn for you, mark what's congruent. Now I'm going to start filling in this information, and don't leave anything out. From B to E is 42. E to H is 33. The measure of angle BEH is 6x minus 13. The measure of angle EF HB, so your vertex is at H, is 68 degrees. Segment HB is 10Z minus 15. And the measure of angle KAY is 8W minus 4. The measure of angle KYA is 4x plus 17. And then I'm going to tell you that KA is 7Z plus 3. Every bit of that came from that information. So I want you to take a second to make sure that your triangles are properly labeled. All right. So in this particular question, I actually asked you 3 different problems. Okay. So the first thing I want to know is, what is the length of KA? Find KA. Here's KA. KA is 7Z plus 3. That is the third side. What is the third side equal to in the other triangle? 10Z minus 15. So I'm going to set those equals. So right here, I'm going to tell you this is where I'm finding KA. All right? So the first thing I've got to do to find KA is I'm going to take those 2 sides and set them equal to each other. And I'll be honest. Why do you think I put 10 on the left instead of the right? Because when I move it over, it's going to stay positive. If you put 7Z over here, that's totally fine. So I'm going to solve for Z. I'm going to minus 7Z from both sides. I'm going to add 15 to both sides because inverses cancel, and that leaves me with 10 minus 7 is 3Z equals 3 plus 15 is 18. So that when I divide by 3, my Z equals 6. Did I ask you for Z? Nope. I asked you for the measure of KA. The measure of KA is 7 times Z plus 3. You had to find Z so you can do what with it? Plug it back in. And so KA is 7 times 6 plus 3, which gives you a total of 45. All right, so my next part says find the value of W. Now, if I need to find W, here's W. W is A. What angle is A equal to? A is equal to H, and what can you tell me about H? It's 68. So what are you going to do with these 2? You're going to set them equal. Now, I'm going to need a little bit more room for the other one, so I'm going to come right here and I'm going to find W. So to find W, I take 8W minus 4, and that equals my 68. So I add 4 to both sides. 8W equals 72. And when I divide by 8, W equals 9. I didn't have to plug that back in because I simply asked you to find what W is. So W equals 8, you're done. You found it. All right, the last thing I asked you to find on example 5 is I asked you to find the measure of angle HEB. So the first thing I would do is go locate HEB, which is going to be the vertex at E. E is 6x minus 13. I need you to figure out what x is. Well, if you take 6x minus 13, E is equal to y, which happens to be 4x plus 17. And so now I'm going to solve. I'm going to minus, you're paying attention up here, boys, 4x. I'm going to add 13 to both sides. Inverses cancel. I get 2x equals 17 plus 13. What is that? 30. I'm going to divide by 2. X equals 15. Now, if this was a multiple choice test, I'm going to put x equals 15 on there. If you chose x equals 15, I would know you solved for x correctly. You'd be wrong, though. Why would you be wrong? Because I didn't ask you for x. I asked you for the measure of angle HEB. And HEB is 6 times x minus 13. And what did you just find out x is? 15. And so what is 6 times 15 minus 13? 77 degrees, my friend tells me. So you have to pay very close attention to what did I actually ask you to find and what do you have to do to get there. All right, last question for these notes. Example 6 says, given that a triangle PMQ is congruent to triangle GBE, BE is this, PQ is this, MQ is this, the measure of angle MPQ is this, the measure of angle EGB is this, and the measure of PMQ is that. Determine the measure of angle QPM and the length of segment EB. Now, I just rattled off a whole bunch of words, and I didn't even put the number part in there. Chances are that made no sense to you. It makes no sense to my brain. I need an organized picture. Best way to do that is draw two triangles. You could draw any shape and size triangle you want. I'm always probably going to draw these. Truthfully, it's easy to draw those. And then you're going to label P, M, Q. You can label the first triangle any way you want to, as long as P matches up with G, as long as M matches up with B, and as long as Q matches up with E. The reason I like to draw two that look identical is because between 1 and 2, that side's the same. Between the 2 and the 3 angle, that side's the same. And between the 3 and the 1, those are the same. It's just really easy to look at. Because once I draw my empty triangles and mark what's congruent, now I'm going to start filling this stuff in. From B to E is 6y plus 7. From P to Q is 25. From M to Q is 10y minus 9. From angle MPQ, so P right here, is 7x plus 19. Angle EGB is 9x minus 5. And angle PMQ is 4x minus 14. Determine the measure of angle QPM and the length of segment AB. I'm going to give you just a second to get caught up writing all of that in. All right, so let me get my red. Last time I didn't switch my pens. All right, I want to find, so my goal right now is to find the measure of angle QPM. Okay? Now, QPM, that's this angle. So, the measure of angle QPM is 7x plus 19. So, what do I have to find in order to find my answer? I got to find x. Okay? P is equal to G. So, that's what I'm going to start with. So, I'm going to say 9x minus 5 equals 7x plus 19. Now, I tried to be tricky. I threw you another x in there. Why didn't I use 4x plus minus 14? Because it's not in the same place. That's exactly right. Okay? So, even if I try to be tricky, don't fall for it. These are the ones that are congruent. So, I'm going to solve. I'm going to minus 7x to both sides. I'm going to add 5 to both sides. So, I get 2x equals 19 plus 5 would be 24. So that when I divide by 2, what is your x value? 12, my friends say. Now, you can go back over here and do 7 times 12 plus 19. Now, you tell me, what'd you get for the measure of angle QPM? What'd y'all get when y'all type that in? Did y'all get 103 degrees? Double check. That's what I typed, but I could be wrong. All right? So, that's how I find the measure of angle QPM. Next, I need to find the length of segment EB. So I'm going to to write the length of segment EB, all I got to do is this. Write EB without the line over it. With the line, it's a name. Without it means the measure of. All right, so find EB. So EB equals 6 times y plus 7. What do you have to find to get that answer? You got to find y. Here is EB. What do you know about EB? What is it the same as? QM. So these two are the same. That means 10y minus 9 is actually equal to 6y plus 7. So I'm going to solve. I'm going to minus 6y on both sides. I'm going to add 9 to both sides. So I'm going to get 4y equals 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Is that 16? And I'm going to divide by 4. So what is my y value? 4. Now, if this is a multiple choice test, I'm going to have 4 as an answer. 4 means you were on the right track, but you weren't finished. I didn't ask you for y. I asked you for EB. So to get that, you would do 6 times 4 plus 7, and you should get 31, my friends tell me. So, anytime you get one of these problems where I tell you two triangles are congruent, the first thing I want you to do is mark those sides and angles that are congruent and then figure out what's equal.